All right, so it's 7 o'clock on Monday, November 4th, 2019, and we'll call the meeting to order and stand for a moment of silent reflection. Okay, is there any declaration of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? Seeing none, we'll go to the minutes of the previous meeting, which I believe we're going to do them all at once. So that is the minutes of October 8th, 17th, 22nd, and 28th. We had a lot of meetings in October.
So moved.
Okay, and that's Councillor McKinnon, seconded by Councillor Brody. Is there any errors or omissions? Deputy Mayor Hendricks.
On the minutes of October 22nd, it says resolved that the minutes of the September 7th regular council meeting be approved. I think that might be wrong.
It probably should be October 7th.
Or October 8th.
No, because
No,
October 8th was the night that council did interviews, so the 7th would have been the regular meeting prior to that.
Because we had 3 meetings in September, so.
Yeah, it should have been the 7th. October 7th. I'll change that.
October 7th?
Yes. Because that
But
be
if we
the,
had, what are the minutes of the 8th then?
the 8th was your interviews,
Oh, right.
and the 7th would have been the regular meeting for council. And it would have been the 21st, but it was moved because of the federal election on the 21st.
Right.
So October
So it should be October 7th.
Yes, according to the agenda, that's what we approved.
Oh,
That's what was on the agenda. So there we go.
okay, perfect.
So you have it right there.
Okay, so everything's good. Once we get that, yeah.
Yeah, I will change that.
Okay, so all those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. Okay, we just have one delegation for tonight, and that's at 7:15, and that's Francis from Blue Water Recycling. He's going to do a review of the garbage and recycling services. Moving into correspondence, the first section is the upcoming conferences, seminars, and meetings. Our next meeting is for November 18th, and December 2nd, and December 16th, and that'll hopefully round us off for the end of the year. The Emergency Management Year-End meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, December 4th, 2019 from 10 a.m. till noon, and it's going to be here in the council chambers. The first item for correspondence is the Middlesex County Warden's Banquet, and I think everybody's has the tickets all figured out. If not, we're at capacity, so I'm sorry.
Am I going, Kath? Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
Am I going?
Yes.
Okay. I got Kathy's list.
Surprise when we get there.
Put you in the jail cell down below. All right, item number 2 is from the Strathmore Middlesex General Hospital, and it's their seminar for November 12th, 2019.
It's usually interesting. They'll take you through and show you some of the newer equipment and wherever they can. But yeah, if you want to learn more about the hospital, there's your opportunity.
Okay. So you can either just RSVP right through. It says through this email, so I assume through Jennifer or Kathy. If you just want to go. Next is the Strathroy District Chamber of Commerce seminar for November 14th. Item number 4 is from Middlesex County. It's a symposium being held on November 21st, 2019. Recommended readings. Item number 5 is from St. Clair Conservation Authority, and it's their 2019 June meeting highlights, their September meeting highlights, their newsletter for October. Is there any questions on any of those? Item number 6 is from Blue Water Recycling, and it's their manual collection services versus the automated collection, which we'll be talking about later today. And then October 17th Board of Directors meeting highlights. Item number 7 is the Enbridge application for 2020 rates, and then the notice as well. the action items. Item number 8 is from Kingsville. It's a resolution regarding the local health care services.
I was sitting on the fence on this one.
No one's jumping up and down to support, but
I'm
yep.
gonna say file it.
Councilor Brody or Councilor Clark? Okay. Going to the next one. It's the item number 9 is from Prescott, and it's a resolution regarding delegated administration authority.
I was for supporting that one.
So we'll move that from Councilor McKinnon, seconded by Councilor Clark. Any discussion on this one? All those in favor? Opposed? And it's carried. And then next one is from the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry, and it's a letter dated October 29th, 2019. Do you have any comments on this, or anything you want to bring back?
My thoughts are whoever wrote it must get paid for the words and by the word, because that it was gobbledygook to read it. So,
A snooze festival.
yeah. I'm sure there's something of interest in us in there, but I didn't have time to get to the website and see if they had it in more simple
The
Lang-
websites.
yeah, if they had more simple language to explain what they're talking about in particular.
So there's,
Wow.
yeah. Okay, and then the last one is from Roma, and it's the delegation request form for 2020. Is there anything that we'd like to bring forward to a minister? The one thing I was thinking about is if we want to talk about biosolids or something like that, because that is a topic of our community, and talk to the ministry about that.
Minister of the Environment.
If they can provide any education to us, I think that would be valuable. Is that what we would be asking for,
So,
or
yeah, with
guidance,
it,
or
Catherine, explain how the delegation process works at a conference.
Yeah, generally either the minister or deputy minister is there, and you make a presentation to them to let them know what your concerns are and bring forward their concerns to bring to
Okay.
Queen's Park.
okay,
And
that would be a good idea.
Yeah. So we could think about, that, and what if there's anything else, and then who is attending Roma.
When is it?
So
It's
that
in January.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
okay. If that's the case, then probably could we also coach Kathy to come along too? If we are wanting to go, if we do get the
We'll look
the
at
okay
it. We'll
for that, yeah.
we'll get we'll get the request in and see what happens and go
Yeah.
from there.
Okay. So if there's anything else that comes to mind, there's no harm in requesting delegations, and just see if we can get something done. That's how Lucan Medallic was able to finally get their stoplight over in Lucan, and that's where a lot of those conversations start, is in front of those ministers. It doesn't lead to an answer that time, but it does help get this conversation started. So alrighty, so we need a motion to resolve that council receive and file correspondence items CC1 to CC8 and 10 and 11.
So
Or not 10, 10, 11? Sorry.
10,
Yes, 10 and 11. Okay. Councillor Clark and Councillor Brody. All those in favour? Opposed? And that's carried. Okay. We'll move into staff reports, and our first one is the bylaw enforcement report for October. And that one's Jennifer's.
Thanks, Mayor Smith. This is my monthly report. This is the period ending October 30th. And if council takes a look at it, there's 8 that were received in the month of October, which puts our total up to 12 that we've received since the new bylaws were put in place in May. And there's nothing really much to say, just that the first 2 were approved by the Property Standards Committee for their extension date, and the 3rd one isn't up until November 10th, and then the last 5 are still under investigation.
Perfect. Okay, so we just need the motion then that Council received the bylaw enforcement report for the period ending October 30th, 2019 as presented by the clerk.
So moved.
Councillor McKinnon and Deputy Mayor Hendricks. All those in favour? Opposed? And that's carried. Our next few staff reports are from our CAO treasurer.
Okay. The first item is the invoice payment approval listing for the period October 19th, 2019 to November 1st, 2019 in the amount of $256,857.60.
Is there any questions on the accounts at all? Councillor McKinnon?
Through you to Kathy. On page 4, under Fleet Care, there's a lot of road vehicle maintenance there, and it's all $395.50, and I just wondered, like, is that a yearly thing? I don't recall
Yes.
it last year.
We've done it every year for the last 2 years. It's the undercoating of the vehicles.
Is that
So
all?
we do all of the
Okay.
tandem trucks as well as all the pickup trucks for the township.
Okay, thank you.
I was in here the day that they were doing it. I thought they were lining all the trucks up for like a photo or something. It
Oh.
was very confusing.
Oh, they came
Yeah,
out.
I don't recall.
Yes,
Yeah.
they come on site, that's why,
That's great.
yeah, it's best for us to, we used to have them sourced out, and we found this company that comes right to us, and we have all the trucks show up here in our work yard.
Okay, any other questions at all? I would need a motion to resolve that council approve the account listings for the period October 19th to November 1st, 2019 in the amount of $256,857.60 as presented. Councillor Brody and Deputy Mayor Hendricks. All those in favour? Opposed? And that's carried.
Continue it. Francis.
We may as well switch, just in case there's a lot of discussion of the grant. We're going to jump ahead and jump into your delegation, Francis, to talk about the water recycling and what all you have to offer.
Good. Nice to see you tonight.
Good to see you.
Kathy had asked me to come. I presume there was probably some questions over what we talked about, or I don't know. Because otherwise, it's not
The proposed renewal form.
Yep.
that we sent out.
Okay. So, yeah, I'm sure when you saw that that's when they didn't bring the pleasure to your face. But it's unfortunately we've come to a point where that's reality and we need to address it, I guess. A number of things have changed since we started collection or providing services here. For the most part, the manual collection service that you're receiving now for waste was started back in 1997, and essentially you're still paying 1997 prices. And so back then the truck was about 180,000. 10 years later it was about 300,000. Today it's over 530,000 for a truck. Fuel was 28 cents a liter. Wholesale now it's about 75. Wages have doubled since then as well. Our insurance have gone from about 60,000 a year to 360,000 a year. Things are a little bit different than that, and the cost of living hasn't caught up with the true cost. And at the same time, we've started providing services based on automated collection, which is providing residents with wheelie bins instead of using trucks to lift manual bags or blue boxes and stuff like that. And we started that back in 2008, and so it's been over 10 years now, and we're down to our last couple trucks that are providing manual collection. You're one of 3 communities right now one of 4 right now. They'll be down to 2 next year. You and one other community that have not converted to automated collection. At our last board meeting in October, the board finally made the decision that we're not going to renew the manual trucks that we have now. When we buy trucks, they're good for. We expect to have a life of 10 years with them. We use them on a full-time basis for 8 years. The last 2 years of their life is kind of spared vehicles because it's not something we can go and rent around the corner and all that. And that's where we are now. We bought the last 2 trucks that we bought were in 2012, and so they are now. The next year they're going to be 8 years old, and so the board has decided not to replace them. so we intended to actually stop service in 2022 or earlier, depending on what the remaining municipalities decide to do. So essentially, that's why we're here now. The other decision that they've made too is that anybody on the co-collection now has been, your costs from year to year is changed by the cost of living essentially. So that's why I'm saying you're still paying 97 prices. And they said no on the renewal, which is in January. Municipalities should pay what the true cost is to provide that service, and that's what that chart shows you. Okay. So it provides you certainly the option to continue manual for probably 2 more years. That would be the maximum we could provide that service for you. Or you have the option to go automated collection as well. And so that's why I'm here tonight to answer any questions you may have about why this is happening, or how this could go down, or how fast we could move you over, or whatever. Okay.
Sure, we have lots of questions. I think the first question is how a lot of people in the community either love the wheelie bin idea or they really just want to stay the way they are.
Yeah.
So the question I think for a lot of people that really want to switch over to wheelie bins is how quick can we get to that process then?
So, I mean, our next big launch is actually in May. At that point, we have the downtown core in Grand Bend that we have not converted, that they're going to be converting on May 4th. We have Watford right now, that's where we do just recycling only. We'll be adding waste collection to their service. In the rural area as well as the village of Warwick, we'll also be going full automated collection with waste and recycling. That will happen in May. We have the capability of adding you and the other smaller community that's considering service right now to start May 4th would be the earliest. But we would have to know really in the next 4 to 6 weeks to do that, because we'd have to send notices to the residents to see what kind of bin they want, order them and deliver them before we can start service. Otherwise, then it'd be a little later. We have another launch also going on June 1st. So that's kind of the fastest we could get you on board. In your case, I don't need to order trucks, I have trucks, I just need to get bins.
Okay. Is there any questions at all from council members?
How are that, just curiosity from a logistics, how do you deliver those pins?
Door to door, so we actually hire a contractor that will
Okay.
deliver them for us. Unless it was a very small launch, we'd do it ourselves, but typically we bring in somebody outside, and that's all they do.
And it works, okay.
Yeah, so it's delivered at every resident. And then just so you know, after that, we support these bins for as long as we provide collection services. So if they get broken or stolen or you need a different size or whatever, we have a crew that actually does that every week.
The wheels fall off.
The wheels fall off?
Through the snow.
Well, they're snapped on, they're not supposed to fall off. It does happen. Sometimes it's just a case where when they initially put them together, they just didn't quite snap together enough. Sometimes they just break, and we'll actually just replace the wheel, whatever. There's no cost to the resident, it's part of the service. The bins are actually warranted for 10 years, and we have some that have been out there for over 20 now, and they're very reliable for us.
Francis, I live out in the country, and I think Brooke Alvingston was one of your first municipalities that went on the system down this area.
That's correct.
And when we were driving to Dresden every day, I would notice after Blue Water had gone through picking up the loony bins, there was a lot of debris along the road. Have you addressed that?
With the wheelie bins?
When they take it up and they put it in, there's a lot of it that comes out onto the roadside. Whether they're not hitting the proper spot, or whether some of that had been down, because a lot of the wheelie bins you see with the winds, they get knocked over and some of the lid pops open and then the debris is on the ground.
Yeah, that can certainly happen. For collection, I know our first truck didn't have a roof on it, and so if you have a crosswind, that could have been an issue.
Okay.
All our vehicles have roofs on them now, so during collection, it'd be odd that they would create a mess that way.
And this would be in the early years?
Yeah, certainly in the early days, yeah. There's you know, the bins can topple over and they could spill, and that can create a mess. The bins themselves are designed for winds of up to 70 kilometers an hour, so a blue box definitely doesn't last that long. It tips before that. And then we've got also a new device now, a spring that we can put on the lid that it keeps it closed, so even if the bin was to fall over, it wouldn't spill. So, I mean, if anything, anywhere we've gone with a wheelie bin, that's one of the major changes you see is less litter because stuff's staying inside the bin and getting collected. So it would, maybe in the early days or something, but certainly it's not an issue we have now.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if you can talk about the reach of them. So if you, you know, you've got a long line with a ditch at the end of it and not much curb, how far can you reach with the truck to pick those bins?
So the arm of the truck will reach out 12 feet. So, and certainly the wheels don't have to be on the road. So quite often they'll be on the shoulder and then reach out to get it with the arm. So it doesn't have to be quite on the road, especially like, you know, this road here. We would advise residents to keep it away from the road because you get large transport trucks going by, and if you put it right at the edge, guess what? They'll rate it 80 kilometers away and flip it over, right? So we tell residents to keep it more in their driveway, and then we pick it up from there. That's not an issue.
Or wouldn't the guys just wheel it 2 feet to put it on, or they don't get out of the
Nope.
vehicle at
They,
all?
they typically don't get out, and
Okay.
that's the beauty of the truck. That's how you reduce injury and make it faster. We can get to a bin and pick it up in 10 seconds with the arm.
Okay.
If we have to climb out of the truck, go to the bin, pick it up, whatever, now you're a minute and a half, and then you lose all the efficiencies of the system. Not to say that we don't do that, because if we get to our household and the bin's tipped, that's exactly what they'll do. They'll get out of the truck, pick it up, and empty the bin, and move on to the next one.
Okay, is there any other questions at all? Councillor Pinnon?
On the chart that we have here, the automated coat collection, the weekly is $153 per household, and the bi-weekly is $182. Bi-weekly, would you find that to be most collection periods would be now the bi-weekly because of the size of the bins? Like even the small wheelie bin that will hold a lot.
Yeah, I mean, the level of service you provide here is definitely Cadillac. You know, it's a weekly service. I have other areas that do provide that in a rural setting, but it's more likely to see bi-weekly service in a rural setting. But that's really a local decision as far as what they feel the residents need. Certainly with the wheelie bin, you're provided with more capacity, so it's easier to handle. And being in a rural setting, again, smell is not usually an issue because you have large properties and stuff like that. And so it's really only in the summer, even you have a bin with a lid that does keep the smell inside, but you know, if you're in town, that can be maybe in Kerwood or something like that, maybe properties are a little closer, residents might be a bit more concerned with that. But certainly on a farm, it's not like you're going to smell the bin or have any issues with odor that way. So yeah, I mean, that, you know, it's certainly an option there for you, and you know, whether you want weekly or bi-weekly service.
I guess the only downside is if you miss it, then you're a month before you get garbage, right?
If you were to miss it, yes. What we would likely do if we were to service you on a bi-weekly basis, is we'd probably make sure that we're in town every week, just maybe do 1 week the Adelaide side and the other week the Metcalfe side, so that if for some reason we missed you, then, or even if you missed us, we like to just swing by the next week and catch you,
Oh, okay.
right? We find it just easier that way, and you can get away with that. Regardless, just like now, you would never miss a holiday. We would collect every holiday, so it's not an issue about that.
So is there an opportunity that it could be bi-weekly in the rural areas and then weekly in more of a populated area? I think that's what happens in Elliston.
Yeah, there's a number of communities, well, I mean, your neighbors, Warwick, this is actually what they're doing. In the urban areas, they're going to service weekly, so that'd be the village of Warwick and Watford, and the rest of the community is going to be bi-weekly. Brook Alvinston is doing the same thing. The most, I don't know, I guess Strathroy Carrick did something a little different there, and to the north, they are weekly, North Middlesex, but there's a number of them that certainly are like that. And that provides a service that the local residents need.
And these would be the same day every week, cause I know in the city of London it's very confusing because it does this rolling where you're every 2 weeks, but then the day changes, so this would be
Yeah,
the
that's the
same.
worst.
Oh, it's terrible.
Worst system I've ever seen. I can't believe you're still doing that
Yeah.
today. Yes, no, it's regardless whether you're weekly or bi-weekly, you're
Be
the same day
Okay,
year round.
just wanted to
This
clarify.
change. I guess the one exception is that Christmas and New Year's are the two holidays that we actually do take. Until now, we've been collecting the Saturday in between, because it's the same day. Like
Right.
if Christmas is a Wednesday, New Year's is Wednesday, right? Normally we collect the Saturday in between. Starting this year, actually, what we're doing is on that week, both Saturdays will collect. So the Saturday after each holiday,
Oh, okay.
and for those two, after the other ones, we collect the day of. It doesn't matter when it is.
Any other questions at all?
So this chart here, this is for what the costing would be for 2020, correct? Starting January 1st? This,
Is that,
Yes.
Yeah, that's, Kathy put that together.
Jan 1?
so the annual co-collection
It
is,
will be whenever it started, so it's January, but it will be whenever the automated rolled out, but that's to give you on a yearly basis what it would be.
Oh, right, so, but it wouldn't be, if we
so-
went automated, it wouldn't be, as you say, till May, but.
Right.
But so this pricing here, if we continue, like even in January, does it jump to the 233 right off the hop in January? Because we are still on manual at that point?
That would be something we would negotiate with Blue Water Recycling to
Okay.
see how long, what we would do with the
Based on
price
what our
and the
decision's
insurance.
gonna be,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
So you'd be negotiating with us on that, would you?
I can be convinced to delay.
Okay.
And then maybe this is more of a Kathy question of yourself, Francis, but do you know the other municipalities that are using the wheelie bins and how they collect the fees, whether it's per size or they just put it in part of their tax amount, or like how do you know any of those stats, or maybe Kathy should be doing some digging on
If
it?
I may,
Yeah.
Francis does have all of that information and he can provide it to us, if we would like to go further and proceed with investigating the wheelie bins further, we can ask Francis to put the package together and it will give council the options on what other municipalities do. I read the report that you prepared for Warwick for their information and how they determined what the cost should be. So it's all over the place on how different municipalities do it. Warwick's on a cost recovery basis, so there is going to be an annual fee for your bins, for your garbage bins, not necessarily for the recycling, but for the garbage. Brook Alvinston, it's all amalgamated within their tax bills, so there's no separate line item on their tax bill for garbage. So those are things that council will have to consider if they want to move forward with the automated collection system.
Yeah, certainly the financing of the system that's a local decision. So we'll have 97% of our communities converted next year, and certainly the vast majority of them go in a subscription style. So based on the size of the bin that your resident has, they pay a fee. It seems the going rate these days is about $110 a household for the smallest waste bin, about $185 for the medium, and $270 for the large bin. But that's totally up to you about the rate, the way you set it up, and that's the kind of going rate right now. So others, of course, you get the extreme from Brook Alvinston that's totally on the taxes, so there's no separate line item, it's just part of your services. Warwick, which is implementing a fixed fee system, so in their case, the residents that are bi-weekly are gonna pay $85 a year, the ones that are weekly are gonna pay $120 a year, and it doesn't matter what size container they have. So, in their case, and that's okay, it's a different approach, they have a unique circumstance, they don't have disposal fees. So they're not concerned about how much waste is generated, because they don't pay anything, right? And the residents know that as well, obviously. And so they've chosen that approach that fits their purpose. Lambton Shores, which is in Lambton County, which kind of also has a similar deal with waste, where it's actually managed through the county, where they pay a fixed fee based on their assessment for disposal. They have a lower fees. I think they pay 60 for the smallest bid. I'm guessing here,
120 for the medium.
120
and
for medium and
180.
160 or
180 for the large one.
Yeah, there you go. So they use a lower rate. Now there's others that even go a step further and they say, okay, well, we're not going to charge as much for the waste, but we'll actually charge for the recycling bin also. They'll put a flat fee of say $50 a year for just for recycling services. So it really depends on how you see your system. I mean, right now, I think your cost $130,000 before disposal, and I know at Warwick you're paying about $20,000 a year or so based on the current disposal. But you still have costs for your old sites, so Kathy will know best there. But, so if you're looking at $146,000 a year in expenses right now, really, I think your user fees are recovering about 44 of that. So the remaining 102 is really paid through your assessment right now, through your taxes, right? Whereas when you go to a subscription system with this system here, we know exactly what every resident, what size they have, and we provide that for you, and you can import it in your tax software to just charge a flat fee. And then for budgeting purposes, it's a lot easier because you don't have to guess how many tags you're going to sell this year. You know exactly how many bins you have and what the revenue is going to be, and the residents also don't have to chase tags on collection day and all that. That makes it a lot easier for them, and that allows you then to almost flip that completely, where you'll generate most of your revenues and user fees, and maybe a small portion on your assessment. And in your mind, that could be for recycling services or just general service provision. So it's up to you. I mean, we can definitely model different cases for you, and you can. Again, that's a local decision. We charge you a flat fee. For us, it doesn't matter what size bin it is, but for you, it may.
Councillor Clark?
Just to educate me a little bit, when your team picks up the recyclables and the garbage, then do they go to one of the landfill sites that we currently own and dispose of the garbage, or where does that garbage go?
We did until last year, and
Okay.
then we started going to Twin Creeks for you.
I thought so, okay.
I think if I go back to 2017, you were just operating your own sites at that time, and I think you had costs of about $73,000 a year just for your disposal site. Whereas us disposing of that same waste in Warwick costs you under 20.
Yeah.
So now you still have maintenance costs for your sites and testing and that sort of stuff.
So, okay, stupid question. So would there be any thought given to, would we have at the current landfill sites, is there any place there to have recycling there? Like
Do you have a depot for recycling?
Yeah, a depot, so that if somebody missed the collection day or whatever, that there'd be, but you'd have to have access to it on the day you're driving around, so that's not maybe plausible. Okay, I'm just thinking out loud, sorry.
Yeah, we call those convenience depots.
Right.
And,
Do they exist in some municipalities?
every municipality will set them up.
Oh, okay.
And so we, if you have a landfill site, usually it's a natural location to establish them. For those, what we actually use is a 6-yard metal bin, like a front end bin.
Okay.
So it's a different truck actually altogether that collects them. But so the landfill sites are certainly an option. So if you still open on Saturdays or whatever, I don't know what you're doing with them right now, but we can do that. We quite often put them in more public areas. Like if you have an arena or something like that, we would put them there, or a community center, where people tend to be at, or more central to the community. It's more open, even 24 hours a day, or sometimes it's the public works yard, where the bins would be there, and they'd be part of our weekly collection system. We come around and empty them every week, and we put, we might set 1 or 2 there at certain sites, and depending on the need, we may add bins or take one away, whatever is needed.
Okay, thank you.
So that way, if you have a resident moving in and they have,
Yeah,
a
exactly.
truckload of cardboard, obviously they don't put it in the wheelie bin, but you don't want it to put it in the landfill either. That'd be an option for them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is there any other questions at all? And you said, how many weeks did you say, if we were wanting to change, or any change on our end, was it 6 to 9 weeks away that we?
4 to 6.
4 to 6, okay, that's what it was. I
Tell us
knew
by
you
the
said,
middle of December we can get it, because
Well, you have to order the bins as soon as.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what has to happen is we have to mail out a notice to every resident, and it'd be similar, like you did a survey, I think, last year, isn't it?
That was 2 years
2016.
ago.
Did you?
2016.
2016?
Yes.
Did you mail something like that out at
Yes.
that time? Yeah, so they'd receive something like this that would tell them, you made a decision to move to automated collection, so it explains that to the resident here, that what's gonna happen, so, you go automated collection, yes, no, you need to choose frequency of service, you can go weekly, bi-weekly, or a combination, no problems, that's your second decision. Your third decision is how you're gonna charge them, how much, okay? So then we would communicate with that, so if it's a fee per bin, we would show them the different size bins, the capacity, what the fee is, and let them know what their frequency of collection is. So, based on that, we mail that out to them, they have it in their possession for a couple weeks, and by default, what we do is everybody gets a small waste bin and a large recycling container. So that's just the default. You don't call us, that's what we'll deliver to you, and for 80% of the people, that's exactly what they want. So, that works out good, so we don't have to talk to anybody, and you just get it on there. The other 20% that want something a little bit different, and maybe they want us larger waste bins or a smaller recycling bin or something, they call us, and then we modify the request. And then once we have that in, then we call that in to place our order for the bins. They're usually about 3 months for production, and then we have to deliver them. In a case like this, it's for delivering them, it's not a big deal. It's 1 or 2 days to be all delivered, so we're not too concerned.
So just because I know this happens in other provinces and stuff, is this on your horizon now, just from a costing standpoint, so we know that this could be coming? I have a couple of places where we have 3 bins, where you have a green bin too.
Yeah.
And organics are every week, and then your recyclables are every week, and your garbage is every other week.
Yeah.
So is that on the horizon, a green bin at all, or not really, because it's a rural area and most of us compost ourselves?
Yeah, the province is going that way. They're gonna require larger urban communities, about 20,000 population plus, to have a green bin program in place by originally it was 2022, but I think it might be delayed to a year or 2. So Sarnia, London, Stratford, they're gonna have to have green bins. Everybody else in our area does not. Like even Stratford Caradoc that has the 20,000 population, their density is low enough that they're exempt from it. Okay, so there won't be any requirement for you to do that. But we anticipate that once it's in place in those cities and that the facilities to compost exist, for us, it's a question of just collecting it and taking it there. So it's not a big deal. But there would be extra cost to do that, and it comes down to what you want. Okay?
So would you have to have a special truck for that, because there's 3 different chambers, or it doesn't work
Well,
that way?
no, I think our vision until now has been, we provide you waste and recycling, the 2-compartment truck. So our truck has 2 compartments,
Right.
2 bins. We collect them at the same time. The intent was, if we ever go organics, that they would, until now at least, we would put out a 3rd bin for organics. And that organic bin would be collected weekly, and the other 2 would be collected bi-weekly, alternating. So this week we collect your organic bin with your recyclables, next week we collect your organic bin with your waste or residual.
And that seems to be standard in
So that's a common program.
Mhm.
We're starting to change our view on that one, and we're not sure you need a 3rd bin, which adds a lot of cost. We think we can do it still with our 2 bins, but maybe a different colored bag inside your waste bin. So we may tell you, you're in your black bin, which is for waste right now, put your organics material in a
Clear
yellow bag or whatever, some specific color that's not common anyway. And then we would do a pre-separation before bringing it to the landfill, where we pull out all the yellow bags, whatever color we decide, and get that to the organic facility, and then get the rest to the landfill. So at that point, whether you want weekly or bi-weekly, it doesn't really matter.
I just wondered if it was on the horizon. I just didn't want it coming at us next year.
Yeah.
If it was mandated.
If you're talking about doing a mail out to all the residents, do you mail out to the owners of the property or the actual tenants in the case of rentals?
Yeah, so we, in a community like yours, we would likely do an ad mail out to every address in your community.
Okay, so it would just be in the mailbox.
So they would be in our mailbox, and the tenants are gonna get it more likely than the landlord in some cases, if the landlord's in Kitchener, right? And then we look at your roll, your tax roll, and we see where the property owner lives, and if their address, their mailing address is outside your community, then we do a direct mail out to them. Because we need the landlord to approve it.
Cause they're paying for it, absolutely. Yeah.
It's gonna come through their taxes,
Yeah,
and they're allowed to
absolutely.
pass it through, but
Yeah.
they need to know what's happening. So yeah, that's how we handle it there. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, is there any other questions at all? Seeing none. Okay, thank you so much for coming out. I'm sure if you have any more questions, we'll
Yeah,
send it through Cassie. And,
No problems.
yeah,
Thank
excellent.
you.
Thank you.
Try to bring better news next time.
Try to bring what?
Better news next
Oh,
time.
well, the problem is, the costs keep going up, right, you can't. Sure.
The recycling industry has just been battered. It's just crazy.
Well, was it W5 where they had that report on TV, which was very well done a while ago last year, was it? That talking about the increased costs and just.
The impact on China, changes in China alone, even though we ship one commodity there now, it's never been really we like to ship locally. But it affected everybody in the world, because they were 60% of all world markets, 90% of all exports, and over the span of 2 years, they decided to get out of the recycling business. And so just last year alone in North America, cost municipalities $400 million in lost sales, and $1 billion in extra disposal costs.
Well, it has to go somewhere, right?
Yeah, well, there's nowhere to ship it, so a lot of with poor quality they go to landfill. And so the bottom line, the average cost of municipality, just the China impact alone, is $12 a household per year. Just pure China. And on top of that, we have truck costs that have doubled, we have insurance costs that have doubled, no drivers, just chaos.
Difficult times, yeah.
Yes. It's a pleasure to serve you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Francis.
Okay, take care.
Hey, Francis.
Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna jump into continue talking about the waste and recycling. So Kathy's gonna do her 5th report.
So, it's just some information on the waste and recycling collection on a weekly basis. The first sheet that was on your desk this evening is the cost for the recycling and the collection. It's separated out. We do get billed annually for the recycling portion and the collection portion. We do get them separate. It gives you the total contract price, and that is all through Blue Water Recycling, and the garbage bag tag revenue, which we receive, and it goes up and down annually. It's hard to budget for that amount. We're never sure what it is. One thing, if you move to an automated collection, we would no longer collect the bag tags. So we would lose the revenue portion of it. However, by modifying possibly the timing of the collection, being a weekly or bi-weekly for certain areas, or the cost recovery, we would make that revenue up and offset the costs. So those are some things to consider. Francis can put all of those numbers together if you want to pursue automated collection further. The second page is just in regards to what the costs were based on the proposal that he sent through for the renewal. For the current service, right now we pay $130,306. That's plus or minus, because it does go up a little bit because we have a few more households than that right now. The manual co-collection renewal on a weekly basis would be $212.45 per household, which would be a total cost of $233,695. And that would only last for, as he said, the next 2 years. So in 2022, we would be faced with making a decision on what we're doing going forward with our garbage collection, because they're no longer going to support the manual collection of waste. If we went to a bi-weekly, you would see that it went down to $147.08 per household, for a total of $161,788. And that's the collection of both garbage and recycling. Moving to an automated co-collection system, on a weekly basis, the per household cost would be $153.40, for a total of $168,740. And a bi-weekly amount of $108.82, which would bring our total for garbage and recycling collection to $119,702, and that would be before the impact of any revenue generation through collection for the bins, if council chooses to do that. Francis does do a really good job on his report. I've read the report from Warwick in regards to how they decided to recoup the costs on the automated coal collection system, and we can have him generate that for us as well, and it'll give us a more up-to-date amount on what people are charging. So all we're looking for tonight is just some general direction on where council wants to go with the waste and recycling collection.
Deputy Hendricks?
Well, despite the fact that some people really hate it, and they're mostly my neighbors, because we have the long laneways up here. I mean, if you look at this, you can do weekly automated collection for basically the same price as bi-weekly manual. And, I mean, I think we have to go there eventually anyways. We might as well bite the bullet and do it now. I can see bi-weekly in the rural areas being acceptable for the most part. Especially if you have a place you can drop off, because my blue bins sometimes are quite full after a week.
Councillor Brody and then Councillor Clark.
So basically now, it's costing us $100,000 a year. Anyways, right? So, I mean, going automated, going bi-weekly, yeah, it's 20,000. I struggle with losing the service that we provided. You know, you're cutting it in half if we go bi-weekly. But we got to generate some money to cover that off.
So I'm probably the person that would be disadvantaged the most, so I'll say what I have to say. So I do not put my blue boxes out, and I have 6 of them. I don't put them out every week.
No, I don't.
Sometimes it's every 2nd week. A lot of times it's every 3rd and every 4th week. I have the longest laneway of probably anyone in the municipality, and so I personally don't like the idea of losing my blue box, but it doesn't matter what I think about how I feel. You can't argue with the numbers.
No.
And from a financial standpoint, strictly, we should be going to the wheelie bins.
Mm-hmm.
As much as I'm going to hate it, it's the right decision financially. And I think to wait till 2020, we're just avoiding the inevitable. We can save money up front between now and then. I think in rural areas, I think bi-weekly is lots. I know from people in the village, when this hot topic has come up, they're like, no, we would want weekly. Well, they're gonna have smells, they have neighbors, so I respect that. So maybe in a Kerwood pocket, you could go weekly. But out where I live, I think bi-weekly is fine. Basically, because I think I put a ton of recyclables out, and I'm probably the worst example that would be the most upset as a consumer. But when I look at these numbers, I can't be upset. You can't argue the numbers.
Yeah.
So I would be in favor of moving to the wheelie bins, letting him know in the next 4 to 6 weeks that we want to go in that direction. And I would be in favor of bi-weekly, and I would be in favor of weekly for the Kerwood Village, and possibly Buttery Creek, and like
The edges of
any
town.
densely where it's going to be, like even on 2nd Street, you know, possibly if there's going to be an odor issue or rodents or whatever.
Councillor Brody?
I would like to see the cost of the sites, because just in my mind, you could have one here, you could have one at the Napier
Well,
Works
that's what
Garage.
yeah.
I mean, they do them, what do you say, once a week?
Well, they're going to do those anyway, I think he said.
Is that all included?
Well, I think so. He said all the ones right now have what they call a convenience depot. Every single one of them. So that's what I wanted to know, because if you have to go to the landfill, or like he said, if somebody's moving in and they got a truck full of cardboard, you take it there, right? And you do it. We've got 2 options: the first of the month and the last of the month, or the whatever they are. So we do have services available for people.
Councillor Kenny?
Those convenience bins can be really abused, because I've seen them where people bring their televisions, their old Chesterfields and everything. It's supposed to be for recyclables or garbage, but
But
they
if
just
you,
throw everything.
yeah, but
in
if you have them open the day the landfill's open, I was at the landfill on Saturday and they have, like if you got a TV or a washing machine, there's a bin for that. If you got tires, there's the section for that. So if they
there's
just had another
supervision.
catchment on the other side for the cardboard or the recyclables, I think it's a doable. I think you have to try it.
Yeah. Yeah, my fear was you'd set it out by the garage here and people would bring over whatever and put it in.
Cause there is one behind Boston's, there's a cardboard one behind Boston's and you see, like I've gone and gotten a pizza late at night and you see people throwing crap in there, so I see what you're saying.
Tires from.
Oh, do you? Okay. But anyway, that's all I have to say.
Councillor Brody, do you have your hand up or no?
Well, I think we need to put something at the Adelaide, but we're gonna have an issue with Callan Road.
We already don't.
We already
Right,
do,
because
and
we're
that's
gonna
what's
be-
remarkable, when you go to the school thing, when I was driving there, I was like, how come there's not a lick of garbage on the road? And all I can think of is it's far in and there's no trees, and maybe the traffic's visible, because Kellam, there's trees, it's not visible, tiny laneway.
Yeah.
That place is always gonna be a problem,
Well, even
when
for
we
the life
close
of
it.
it, we don't have much longer to
Well,
set
no,
something up.
2019 was supposed to be the
It's-
last year of it, so,
Very
we
close.
probably have an extension, right?
We're very close.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a problem going forward anyway, and I don't know how you're gonna stop it, but we're gonna have to do something.
My thought are, he talked about the convenience at the Works Garage, and I think actually the Works Garage here it's fairly public, like it's not deserted, and it's accessible. I mean, I think you want something that's accessible, not just on dump day. I mean, if you had to go to the dump this Saturday and you had kids or a funeral or one of the 80 other things that were going on Saturday, like we didn't get to the dump. So
But I think it'd be neat to have one here, and maybe not have it at the dump, and then have one in Napier cause you're visible, so you're
Mhm.
gonna have a less chance of people dumping crap,
yeah.
right?
This is right beside a restaurant,
Oh, okay,
well lit.
okay.
I think I'm not sure if they actually have one of the depot thing in Brook Alvinson. I could be wrong.
Not
But
that I'm aware of.
I don't think
no.
there is. So my sister, she lives in Brook Alvinston, and they have, I don't know why, they just have a lot of recycling, and they were actually having the issue that they had too much for their one large bin. So they actually just got a hold of Blue Water Recycling, and now they have 2 recycling wheelie bins.
Well, see, that was I was thinking of that with him, and I thought, yeah, well, that'll just make me get out there every 2 weeks instead of once a month, because then I would have, that would be my issue too, is I may need 2, right?
Yeah.
So
So
you
that's
pay for them, that's all.
so
or
no,
whatever.
because recycling.
Recycling is
It's-
they
yeah.
provide
Oh,
that because
okay.
they want people to recycle because they get
Oh,
the
okay, so
revenue
then
from
that's the
those products.
solution,
The
okay,
cost is actually for the waste, the
okay.
bins for the waste.
The only problem that I could see is if it's like a fridge or a large cardboard
item.
box kind of
Yeah.
thing. And I could see that problem, but I would say that if we had a bin or whatever it is at the landfill, then that should be fine. But at the same time, I think it's one of those things where maybe we put it at the works garages at the beginning, and if it's used, then keep it,
Well, you just
maintain it.
experiment with
Or
it,
if it's
you
not
know?
being used, get rid of it.
Yeah,
Yeah, because there are no, like you see, there are no Salvation Army, there's no bins in town anymore.
oh, is that right? Okay.
People were putting things like
Oh.
cat litter in there. It was
Yeah.
awful.
Yeah.
And they use it as free garbage dump, like it was.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would think wherever if we were to do these larger bins, we'd almost have to have some kind of security camera system to make
Yeah.
sure, to check out, to make sure, if there's somebody dumping stuff that they shouldn't be, to make sure we know who it is, what the license plate number is, and everything.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So
what
it
I
sounds
think
like
we're
all on
hearing
the
is
same
that
page,
we're all
yeah.
on board with making the change. We just need to, won't we just have a report? And I'm assuming you'll, in that report, when we get that approval to move to the automated system.
You just want a direction which
We'll
way
also-
which
Yes.
road
Yeah.
it should be going down,
Correct.
like do
Yeah,
something.
and
okay.
kind of figured that we would want in the built up areas having the weekly pickup
Yeah.
versus bi-weekly, so we can give Francis those parameters and he can generate the cost effectiveness of it.
Yeah, well, like you said, you have 2 bins if you can't keep up, right?
Yeah,
And
it's not a, yeah,
cause I'm good bi-weekly where I am, but,
Me too.
Yeah, we have windy Wednesdays where I live, so we don't get it out every week because some weeks it's just too windy to put the bin out.
well, so I've seen in the city of London when the truck, then they have their own, on Dufferin and Talbot, there's like a wind tunnel that goes through there. And the one day the guy's putting the garbage in and probably a tenth of it was going in and it's headed towards Richmond Street and I was like, what's the point? Like it was everywhere, but that's the wind, right?
Yeah.
So I don't, that's on them to try to figure that problem out, but.
and for me, if we switch over to, I'll be happy because sometimes I just forget to put the garbage out on, the Tuesday night, and I can't put it out the Tuesday night because we do have a friendly, family of raccoons that live nearby.
Oh, we all do, yeah.
And so then I sometimes just forget to put it out on Wednesday morning, whereas if it was the wheelie bin, you can, I don't know if
Well,
they're
he said
foolproof,
there's a spring lock on it too,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
good. Yeah, because
good.
that's why I don't always put it out because I don't want, because even if you have recyclables, the animals will still
Yeah.
search or,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
unless you've scrubbed every last thing out of the
Yeah.
cans.
Just
well, and
Jesus
did I
Christ.
read somewhere too that, people do drive
Collection
around and
to-
selectively take pop cans out and things like that, and those are the revenue generators for the recycler.
Yeah.
So there's probably less
There we go.
tampering when it's in the bucket or whatever, so. Anyway,
Or,
there we go.
or
The
beer
loony
cans.
bin, as you call it.
I almost lost it, by the way.
I don't think she realized she
No.
said it when it came out.
Okay, so we had a motion that council receive the automated co-collection and waste and recycling staff report as presented by the CEO treasurer.
So moved.
Okay, Councilor Clark and Councilor Brody, all those in favor, opposed, and that's carried. And now we're gonna have a motion below that, which is going to be to direct staff to,
further investigate cost for a wheelie bin automated system.
move and seconder. Councilor Brody, seconded by Councilor Clark, all those in favor, opposed, and that's carried.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with math, eh?
Can't argue it at all.
I'm gonna get a strap to go down the lane for Halloween. Have to build a hut at the end of the laneway or something, I don't know.
People think you have young kids going on the bus again.
Get one of those feed cart things to, well, I guess that's wheels, that's the same
Same thing.
thing, you don't get any.
So I'm gonna jump into the council grants.
Yes,
All right.
yes, correct. My next report is the council grant policy. Council received a draft policy on October 22nd for their review. At this meeting, the application form has also been attached for council's consideration. There has been no comment received from anyone on council, nor our staff recommending any changes to the policy as drafted. There's no impact on the budget for the creation of the grant policy. Council will have the opportunity to evaluate requests annually in advance and determine the target grant amount to be incorporated into the budget. And council will retain the final approval on all grants awarded. And the recommendation is that the grant policy be approved as drafted.
Any discussion at all?
I think it's great, we should have had one before, so I think that's super that you've got that, that's great.
Questions, comments? Seeing none. Okay, so the first motion that's in front of us is to receive the report. Okay. Deputy Hendricks and Councilor Brody, all those in favor, opposed, and that's carried. And then he wants to move to approve the council grant policy.
So moved.
Councilor Clark, and seconded by Councilor McKinnon, all those in favor, opposed, and that's carried.
The next staff report is an update to the Strathroy-Caradoc Adelaide Metcalfe servicing agreement. The Township of Adelaide Metcalfe has a servicing agreement for water, wastewater, and stormwater with the municipality of Strathroy-Caradoc for an area along Center Road. An additional separate agreement with Strathroy-Caradoc has been entered into for the provision of water along 2nd Street to the Gilrest subdivision. There are servicing implications in the County Lane, Napperton Drive area which are not recognized under any agreement. The current agreement with Strathroy Caradoc requires updating to take into account changes in the water regulations and the ability to better administer the various water, wastewater, and stormwater aspects and their respective implications on development in the serviced areas. The township service delivery has exceeded a threshold within which the provisions of the Safe Drinking Water Act and significant changes to the servicing agreement are required. The water systems that service Adelaide Metcalfe fall under the purview of the Middlesex London Health Unit. As the number of customers grows, the system should be administered under the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks. This change will have substantial impact on the township. A drinking water system number needs to be obtained, financial planning documentation needs to be undertaken, operational plans need to be developed, all prescribed by the Drinking Water Quality Management Standard. Strathroy Caradoc staff have been working with Adelaide Metcalfe staff to provide assistance in undertaking the steps of the Safe Drinking Water Act. The impact of the changes to Adelaide Metcalfe are significant. Strathroy Caradoc has provided lengthy transition time to the township. The proposal for the structure of the new servicing agreement is based on the premise that Strathroy Caradoc would sell bulk water to and receive bulk sewage from the township. Adelaide Metcalfe will be responsible for all operations within the township boundaries. The current negotiations propose an extension of the current agreement to December 31st, 2020 with a few modifications and a commitment to terminate the agreement at that time in favor of the new agreement structure, and a wholly new agreement will be proposed to be effective January 1st, 2021 with a structure reflecting the new responsibilities of the township for the overall operation of its systems. The extension of the current agreement will include minor additions to formalize the Strathroy Caradoc role in the Township Development Review, the requirement to install water and wastewater metering at boundaries of the township, clarification on responsibilities for funding capital due to expansion, a commitment to terminate the agreement in favor of the new agreement. The new agreement, proposed to be effective January 1st, 2021, will be drafted to reflect Adelaide Metcalfe as a customer of Strathroy Caradoc similar to other customers. The township would be subject to a charge for usage based on a per cubic meter basis for water and wastewater. Adelaide Metcalfe will be allocated a maximum volume of water and wastewater. The township will become wholly responsible for the operation, maintenance, repairs, and capital improvements of our water and wastewater systems as per requirement of the Safe Drinking Water Act. The full extent of the financial impact of the new agreement is not known at this time. Staff are preparing anticipated costs related to the transition period of 2020. The cost to operate under the existing service agreement will be incorporated into the 2020 agreement. The Council approved the Strathroy Caradoc Adelaide Metcalfe Servicing Agreement report as presented. The second recommendation is that Council authorize staff to proceed with review and negotiation of the proposed extension of the current Strathroy Caradoc Adelaide Metcalfe Servicing Agreement, and that staff provide monthly update to the status of the extension agreement, and that Council direct staff to prepare a report on the Safe Drinking Water Act and the Drinking Water Quality Management Standard. And that's for Council's information to let you know why this is happening and what we're required to do under both the Act and the Standard.
Okay, is there any questions at all? Councillor Clark.
So I know we batted this around before, but did we get clarification on, like, if people are hooked up to sewer but they have well water, so how is that monitored and gauged for usage?
We'll have to discuss that. That's things that we have to clarify within the agreement.
Okay.
Currently it doesn't address that in the current agreement, so that's something that needs to be addressed going forward. The same as the expansion for their sewer treatment plant. We're on the hook for 12.85% of the cost, but it doesn't clarify whether it's for expansion or for remediation of the current system. So we need to clarify a few items in the agreement.
Great, thank you.
Councillor McKinnon.
Through you to Kathy, in the agreement that we were given to read and look over, Southwest Middlesex is mentioned in there. So there's only one area that they're mentioned, and I believe that would be so that Strathroy Caradoc could collect outstanding water bills, or Southwest Middlesex could. I think Eckford extended a water line into Strathroy Caradoc.
That would be stormwater management that it would be referring to. We don't have anything in there about Strathroy Caradoc and their agreement with Southwest Middlesex. It'd be stormwater management because it's part of the stormwater, it was part of the original agreement for the stormwater management systems.
Yeah, I couldn't see why Southwest would be mentioned
Yeah, SWM would stand for Stormwater Management.
Okay, not Southwest
No.
Middlesex.
The Stormwater
And the
Management.
only thing I could think of was the one water line that Eckford extended into Strathroy Carrigan.
Yeah, we have no impact on that line at all.
It wouldn't show on the mapping.
No,
It's just the same acronym, that's all it is.
yeah, it just happens to be the same initials.
Yeah. But I'm saying there
Yeah.
is a water line
Oh,
from Eckford that's in Strathroy Carrigan on Parkhouse Road.
Yeah, that's Eckford and that would be Southwest Middlesex and Stratford Carrigan, not Adelaide Metcalfe.
Yeah, okay. So I was thinking they should be involved in the percentage. But
that's,
it's Southwest giving to Strathroy.
Right.
Yeah.
okay, is there any other questions? I just, yeah,
The only other thing I thought was Andy Villikus used to work for Ministry of the Environment, and he was instrumental in negotiating agreements between Glencoe, West Lorne, Dutton, and who else? Caradoc, for water to come from West Lorne. And I wondered if Andy might be an instrument that we might look at to review the proposed agreement and see if he could see some sort of areas that were not extremely to our benefit and how we could negotiate those areas.
Even, we're going to send it to our legal and have it reviewed through legal, so, yeah, they would look at it and make sure everything is.
I know Andy works for Aqua now, which it could be kind of a conflict for him, but
yeah.
he knows the language that the ministry likes to see in agreements as well.
Yeah, ministry would have no bearing on the agreement,
Okay.
cause it's just between our two municipalities and potentially the Lake Huron water supply system.
Okay.
Is there any other questions or comments? The only one that I just wondering about is the minor additions to formalize the Strathroy Carridoc role in the township development review. What additional,
They just want it clarified, we
Okay.
provide them with our site plan information, what they were looking at was in the old agreement, we've clarified that through the official plan amendment number 11 in 2018. Most of it's been clarified, but they just wanna make sure that we're sending them the site plan information, it's not really documented within the agreement at all, so. But we do provide them with all of that information now,
okay, so
and
just
that has
formalizing what
changed,
we're
correct.
doing now, just put it in
Correct.
the group.
And Kathy, did you see the map with the 5 connection points?
No, we have to negotiate that, that's part of the negotiations that are upcoming, the connection points where they wanna see it go in and go out.
Okay, so we have the 3 recommendations in front of us, so the first one is to receive the report. Okay, Deputy Hendricks and Councillor Clark, all those in favor, opposed, and that's carried. And the next one is that council authorize staff to proceed with the review and negotiations of the proposed extension of the current Strathroy Carridoc Adelaide Metcalfe servicing agreement, and that staff provide monthly updates to the status of the extension agreement. Okay, Councillor Finn and Councillor Brody, all those in favor, opposed, and that's carried. And the last one there is that council direct staff to prepare a report on the Safe Drinking Water Act and the Drinking Water Quality Management Standards. Mover and seconder, Councillor Brody and Deputy Hendricks. All those in favor, opposed, and that's carried.
The next is a request that was received for support for a grant request in Warwick Township. The Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program Community Culture and Recreation Grant Program is accepting applications until November 12, 2019. This is a highly competitive grant process. The ICIP CCR includes commitment by other governments, federally $407 million and provincially $320 million. The cost sharing formula for approved grants is 40% federal government, 33.33% provincial government, and 26.67% municipal. Township staff are working on submitting a grant application for improvements required at the Kerwood Park. In the meantime, Administrator Clerk from Warwick Township has reached out to Adelaide Metcalfe to see if council is interested in providing a letter of support for their proposed community hall addition, which will include a hall with a capacity of 500, accessible washrooms and change rooms, a YMCA facility, and a number of meeting rooms. Warwick Township will be pleased to provide a reciprocal letter in support of our application. The rationale behind the request is that residents, user groups, and other parties from both our municipalities have families, members that hold events in both municipalities. The townships may be competing for funding allocation, however, the projects are entirely different, both in proposal and scope. The development of a rental hall and meeting rooms in a neighboring municipality may provide options to our residents when looking for a gathering place. They provided us with their concept plans for the Warwick Community Hall addition. There is no impact on the budget for a letter of support for the project. Warwick Township is not requesting any financial assistance for the project. The recommendation is that council provide the letter of support for the Warwick ICIP CCR grant application, and we request that they provide one to us as well.
Questions or comments? Okay, so we need the motion to receive the report.
So moved.
Okay, Councillor Clark and Deputy Hendricks. All those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. And the next is to resolve that council provide a letter of support to Warwick ICI CCR grant application.
So moved.
Councillor Clark and Deputy Hendricks. All those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. I saw online today that they're looking for thoughts on the exterior of their building as well. They're putting, I guess, options up there for the public to submit what they want the outside of the addition and building to look like. So it's kind of interesting to see what's
Yeah, I think
happening
we
over
should
there.
support them. I don't see a problem with it.
Excellent.
And the last report is a financial report which includes the payroll for September and October. I had one ready for October and then I forgot to add it to the agenda. So it's for October and November, and it gives you the tax collection as of November the 4th and the payroll for September and October.
It's just slowly getting chewed away at.
What's that?
I said the tax arrears are just slowly getting chewed away at.
Yes.
Looks like somebody's coming in with a $50 check every month.
Did you get
So
mine?
we would go with
Mine,
September.
just gonna check.
What's going on?
I did not put it in there.
No.
That's okay.
Is that it? There it is.
Yep.
Got it.
Okay, so in a motion to resolve that council receive the financial report including the September and October 2019 payroll as presented by the CAO treasurer. Okay, Deputy Hendricks and Councillor Brody. All those in favor? Opposed, and that's carried. That's it.
That's everything.
Okay, we'll go into other business. Anything from council members? Councillor Clark?
Just as a point of interest, effective this, what's today? Monday? So, was it last Monday? Sorry, just a sec. Yes, so last Monday at Community Features Development Corp, a new
GM?
general manager, thank you, started. His name is Todd Copeland. He's from Ilderton, and Lee Smithern has moved on to other opportunities. And the office will be moving from there, but they've entered into a lease because the new location's not ready yet. It'll be Ilderton, so that's all I have to report.
Okay, is there anything else for other business at all? Deputy Hendricks?
I think it's probably public information. The Kerwood Adelaide Metcalfe Optimists have agreed to go ahead with purchasing the church hall in Kerwood.
Sorry, say that again. I
The
tuned in.
Optimist Club in Kerwood has agreed to go ahead with the purchase of the hall in
Good.
Kerwood.
That's awesome. That's perfect. Okay, Councillor Kennedy?
Are we having a Christmas gathering?
I have some information, I forgot to bring it tonight, but yes, we do have some information, so we can discuss that afterwards.
Okay, anything else for other business? I note on my desk here that the Remembrance Day service is being held on Sunday, November 10th at 11 a.m. at the Cenotaph at the Fire Hall. And I'm sure the committee will get a hold of
No,
people to
19.
figure out what's going on. Oh, okay.
Actually, I would go then, that'd be back in time to go. If it's the 19th to the 21st.
Yes. Okay, there's nothing else. We just have our one bylaw, and it's resolved that all three readings be given to bylaw number 72, 2019, confirm council proceedings, and that the bylaw be signed with the mayor and clerk and the corporate seal be attached. Councilor Finn and Councilor Brody. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. And if that's it, I feel like this is a record considering the last number of meetings. Motion to adjourn at 8:15. Okay. Councilor Brody and Deputy Hendricks. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried.
Oh, when you don't have the in-camera session.